I'm on procedure 3 of the blanket chest, which is the center panels. Now looking at the photo in the front of the booklet, right, we've got, it's these all the way around. There's 6 panels, and we like to line them up as they go across. Notice how this panel and this panel match each other, and so it does continue all the way around the blanket chest. In order to pull that off, we need to select wood that is very big, long enough, usually coming from the lumber room. We need 88 inches long. So I have selected these from the lumber room. Notice I have 3, but you could have 4 or 2 or 1 if you can find one wide enough. We have to get 12.5 wide by 88 inches long. So together, these are 13.5, and we need 12.5. So this will work with very little waste. And by the time I get them ready for glue up, they'll be less than that because we're going to have to join and table saw the edges. I've got at least 88 inches long. In fact, these 2 are longer than that. This one's way longer. Those will get trimmed also. Now there's a few things I need to worry about, and I want to point them out because you'll need to worry about it too. The ends of boards often will have checks, or shake it's called. It's when something has been split up the end, and it's usually from the drying process, and you notice this board has this one. So we're going to cut it off right there. Then I'll cut it at 88 inches. This one also has one. It's got, now this is paint that comes from the lumber room too, this blue, but it also has a crack, a check in it right there. So I got to get rid of that. It also has this imperfection, which is some kind of a, looks to me like some kind of packing or blemish. So let's cut that off right there. This one, I don't see any checking at all, so we can go right from the end. So I'm going to rough cut these on the upcut saw at 88 inches. First trimming this off. Checking to make sure there's no more splits, and it looks great. The piece that I cut off, thrown away. 88. I'm going to do a double check and make sure that this is set accurately. Notice that it says 87.5. That's not accurate. So I'm going to reset the upcut saw and make sure it gets right. The way I do that is I hit this button and it says enter the length of cut. So right now it's 87.5, and then I hit start. So now it says, okay, now it's at 87.5, so let's reprogram it to 88. Start. Much better. Now I know it's accurate. Green button is the clamp. 2 black buttons brings the saw. Release the clamp. Cut off that check. 88 inches. piece, it'll go back in the lumber room. I've decided to go from this end instead of that end, and I notice this one does have a check in it. So I'm going to trim it off right there. My third piece. Now this just goes in the trash. Anything less than 12 inches is not very usable. Okay. I lay these out in the way that I like best. And I can do any order that I want. Kind of like this, where it's a small, thick, small. And I like the surfaces of these. So I'm looking for knots or other things that I don't like to put outside or down below. For example, this board has a pretty good piece of sapwood in it and a little bit of wane on the bottom. So I'm going to put that towards the outside, and I think it's going to get trimmed off. Also check the end grain. So come down here and look at what I'm saying. If possible, we want to alternate smiles and frowns. Now, a smile comes from the growth rings. So don't confuse this with the way the saw cuts it. The saw will leave kerf marks. That's not what we're looking at. We're looking at the growth rings of the wood. And on this board, it goes like this. That's called a smile. On this one, that's a burn from the saw, but the growth rings are here. That's a frown. This one, the growth rings are like this. So I'm lucky because I've already got you want to alternate these, and I've got a smile, a frown, and a smile. So what if I had a frown, a smile, and a smile? So if possible, switch it so they alternate each board, or change the placement of them so that they're the same. That's ideal. Now if you can't, meaning I like the way the top is and I don't want to change that, that's okay. Aesthetics trumps smiles and frowns. But if it doesn't matter, or you can alternate it so that it works out, that's better. That's ideal. Okay, now I'm going to draw a line and half these boards right at 44 inches. Because that's a big board to deal with, and it's a lot easier just to do it in smaller pieces, plus it'll fit in my cubby. So I'm going to mark these for later. And to do that, I think I'll put a 1 and a 1, a 2 and a 2, a 3 and a 3, so that I know that those go together. And now I'm going to trim them. I can use the miter saw or the upcut. And I am at the upcut saw, so let's just use it. Let's get ready to glue these boards together so they're all in one piece. This way. We want to leave it at full thickness, 15/16. We're going to square these panels, but not until they're glued together. So right now, we don't square them. We're just prepping them for glue up. Wherever the boards touch, here and here, there and there, it must be jointed. It's called the jointer because it's used to joint boards together. So I am going to joint this edge. This edge I am going to table saw so that it is parallel with this jointed edge. This board I will joint to match that one because it needs to get glued together. This edge I will table saw to make it parallel, and then I will joint it so that it can match this one. This board I will joint and I will table saw that edge. If I had more boards, I would do the same thing. I just got to make sure that that's a joint, 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 joint. And each board needs to be jointed and table sawed. And in this case, it would be jointed again to clean off that table saw edge. A table saw edge is not smooth enough to glue together. It must be jointed. All right, now let's perform those operations. Set it right there, ready for joining. And I think I'll do its match. That way when I set the table saw fence, they'll be the same width. Joint this edge. Okay, each of these are going to have a custom setting on the table saw. And I'm not that particular. I just have to have at least 12.5. So you might be, right, making each of them equal or something like that. But in this case, I'm not. And so I'm just measuring the distance. I got 5 7/16. And I'm just going to remove a little bit. Let's go 5 3/8. And make sure I've got enough on each end. This one's at 5 1/4. So I'll need to take it to at least to there, 5 1/4. That one will work. Okay, so I'm setting to 5 1/4. And now I gotta custom cut these. I'm looking at 4 inches. That one's less than 4, so I go 3 7/8. One, 3 13/16. That's too big. So here I'm at 3 3/4. That'll work. That'll work. Okay, this just needs a joint and a table saw, that which I've done. I want to also, this one though, I've jointed it and table sawn it, and now I need to joint it. So this edge, which has been table sawn, is not clean enough. So I'm going to walk over and joint those. Okay, ready for glue up.